You do not want to move to Minneapolis, and here's why. What's up, guys? Jadde Rowe here with the Living in Minneapolis team. We're gonna get right into this on why you should not move to Minneapolis. All right, elephant in the room is that Minneapolis, just like a lot of other states, are experiencing very low inventory for homes. We're experiencing high prices. We're experiencing high interest rates. It's tough to buy a home. Homes are pricey, all right? Definitely not cheaper to buy a home than rent like it was in 2021. So if you think about Minnesota as like a cheap state, that's not it at all right? Other reason, it's cold here. We just got 4 inches of snow and it's just cold here. That's just how it is. It can go from 20 degrees one day and then 40 degrees the next. I mean, it's back and forth, back and forth. That is not a fit for everybody. If you are not a cold person, you want nothing to do with snow, don't move to Minneapolis. Don't move to Minnesota. You're gonna have snow. I don't care where you are in the state. You're gonna have snow. You're gonna have cold temperatures. If that's an absolute no-go for you, then don't move here. Minnesota's also not for everybody. I mean, we have different politics. We have different religions. We have, just a different culture than other states. We're always known to be a little bit more passive aggressive. Minnesota nice. No one really tells you exactly what you're thinking. We have, generally speaking, leaned more liberal on the election cycles, right? That's not my opinion. That's just the data that's out there. We have, all sorts of different religions here. And if you really want a state where you have one religion, that's not the case here. We have tons and tons of different religions, all right? So depending on what you're looking for, if you want to be in a very red state, Minnesota's not for you. If you want to be in a state where basically everybody is this one religion, that's also not going to be the case. Right now, you can find different pockets in the state, right? I mean, within Minnesota, a lot of the central city areas are going to be more liberal and more blue leaning based on the statistics that you can find online. And then outskirts around Minnesota are generally more conservative and more red, right? Just like religions. Religions can be very specific at one spot and different in another spot, right? But it all is variable, and these are reasons that some people don't necessarily like living in Minnesota because of this. We also have really high taxes in Minnesota. If you're a person that doesn't like paying taxes or hates it, Minnesota might not be the spot for you, right? Because we do pay higher taxes. We have higher property taxes, we have higher sales tax, we have higher income tax. Our taxes are one of the highest in the country. So that's not avoidable. And if you're not a tax person, don't move here. We also have pockets where there's lots of crime. We have gangs here. You just have to know where those potential areas are if you want to stay away from them. And if you want to stay away from those areas where there's higher crime, you're going to pay a premium for those homes and for those schools. And if you're not willing to pay that premium for that school district or for that safer area and neighborhood, don't move here, because it's exactly how it works. The better areas that are safer, that are more walkable, do have higher home prices. And that's another thing. Minnesota in general is not a very walkable state. I mean, unless you're downtown Minneapolis, downtown St. Paul, and any sort of other small downtown areas like St. Louis Park and Hopkins, those areas are the only really walkable spaces. Otherwise, you're driving everywhere. If you're not a driver, if you don't want to own a car, you have to be downtown, because then you have your coffee shops and your restaurants and your grocery stores where you can walk to. But if you live in a suburb where, like I do in Plymouth, you can't walk. I mean, the nearest grocery store is like a 5-minute drive, maybe a 15-minute walk, right? So I have to be able to own a car and drive everywhere. So if you're not a person that likes that, well then Minnesota is not the place for you. We also don't have tons and tons of public transportation. We have the light rail and we have buses. That's about it. We don't have an underground system, railroad system, nothing like that. We have the light rail, which is basically above ground train, but it doesn't go everywhere in the state. It only kind of stays within the Minneapolis area. Parking also is awful downtown. So if you want to be in downtown area, parking's bad. It's always bad. It's always congested, unless you're, coming around like maybe 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, then you might not have as much. But most of the time it is very congested. So traffic is bad, parking is bad in and around Minneapolis, St. Paul, and surrounding suburbs. You're always going to have traffic because people do have to drive in the state. So that just means way more cars on the actual road. If you can't take traffic, then don't move to Minnesota, or you're going to have to move a little bit farther outside of the city in the more of the outskirts, you know, kind of second, third tier suburbs to try to get a little bit farther away from the city to avoid that traffic. Minnesota also just has a lot of older homes. We are an old city. I mean, a lot of homes are in the 1900s, early 1900s, or even late 1880s. A lot of those homes have been very well preserved, but not all of them. And when it comes to buying a home that's older, you're just going to have more responsibilities. You're gonna have more electrical work that's gonna need to be done. You're gonna have some foundation stuff you're gonna have to deal with. You're probably gonna have to deal with some plumbing. You're just gonna have things that come up because it's an older home that's been standing for 80, 90, 100 years. Still great home, but you're just gonna have to assume more responsibilities than when you're buying a 1990 home. All right, if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate that. If you could please like and comment down below, that would be awesome. Comment if you think these are helpful, if you have any other suggestions, if you have suggestions for other videos, that would be fantastic. Also, just please like the video. And again, if I can reach out to you, if you're moving within the state of Minnesota, 9 miles away, or you're moving across country, 900 miles away, reach out to me. My name, number, and email will be down below, and I would love to get in touch with you and see if I can help you with your goals. All right, now let's get back to it. So if you are a mom and pop restaurant type of person, and a coffee shop place, and you want that everywhere, Minnesota's also not the place for you. We do have some awesome mom and pop restaurants. We do have some awesome coffee shops that are local to different neighborhoods and parts of the city, but they are not everywhere. There's not really many in the suburbs at all, really. Once you get from Minneapolis downtown to the suburbs, you're gonna have a lot more chainy restaurants, you know, your Chick-fil-A's, your Jimmy John's, your Arby's, those types of things. You're not gonna have as many mom and pop restaurants. There are some, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely not an abundance of them once you get outside of the city. If you're in the city, there's plenty of options. We do have lots of breweries. Minnesota is a huge brewery state, so if you're really into breweries, we do have a lot of breweries in the city, yes, but then all around the city in those first tier suburbs. There's a brewery probably 10 minutes away from me that I could bike to if I wanted to. There actually is a bike club that literally bikes around, and they stop at the brewery called Loose Line. They bike in the Loose Line Trail, and then they stop at the brewery for a beer or a sour afterwards. It's a great time. It's a great little spot. My wife and I go there probably once every other week in the summer just to get a couple drinks, and they usually have a food truck and that kind of stuff, which we love. So breweries are a big thing here. Not as much maybe mom and pop restaurants and coffee shops in those suburbs. Next, I did touch on this a little bit, but it's gonna be schools, all right? If you want really good schools but still be downtown, that's probably not the case for you unless you're going to a private school. A lot of the better schools, from what my clients are telling me, is the surrounding suburbs, and even some suburbs are better than others from what I hear from my clients. But if you want to be in those downtown areas, my clients are usually telling me that those schools aren't as good as maybe the private or the public schools in the suburbs, right? That's what I hear from my clients. There are some private schools in the downtown or closer to the Minneapolis area that are good too, from what I hear from my clients, but you know, it just kind of depends on where you're looking and you know what suburb you're looking at. But if you want really awesome private schools or public schools in and around the downtown area, my clients are telling me those necessarily aren't the best. So we can look at the data too to kind of decide on that together if you want to make a move, but just know that is something that you'll have to consider. And if it's a deal breaker for you, don't move to Minnesota. That is why you should not move to Minnesota. All right, I've listed a few of the reasons. If this has totally turned you away, great. All right, if it hasn't, if you're still pumped about Minnesota, there's still awesome reasons to move here. The Four Seasons, you know, the Minnesota Vikings, Minnesota Wild, just the awesome lakes, all of the outdoor activities, plenty of reasons to move here. And if you still want to move here, or you're still thinking of making a move within the state somewhere else, reach out to me. I would love to help you and be a resource for you anytime. Until next time, guys, I hope you have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you on the next video.